Hi YouTube friends. Today I'm going to fix this tapestry weave. I'm going to take that hump out of the left hand side first, which we talked about before, and then I'm going to move on to the second side and get rid of that other hump on the right hand side. I'm giving this weave a tummy tuck on both sides, and then finally we're going to have it look like this. Now it does have a distinctive pinch in the middle like it's wearing a belt, but I think I like it better than it was before. Okay, friends, looky. I got all of that yarn pulled out. I did, without breaking any warp strings, which is amazing. I have my little tapestry weave, this poor pathetic little creature. I've got it attached to my nice stubborn desk pull up there. And the string just goes around and is knotted really securely. And I have the other end on a knitting needle, as I showed you before. This end is just looped around. I might need to cross that over some a little bit. And then on the other end, I could not for the life of me find a wine cork. I've had wine corks all over the house for decades. And so instead, I had to get 3 fat rubber bands and wad them down there to keep this one from slipping off. Now, this is going around my back. Okay. Now, the neat thing about this is this tension is just utterly adjustable. If I just squeeze back a little bit, then I tighten it some. It seems to be doing okay. I don't want to put too much pressure on there. I want just enough to weave on it. Okay. I'm amazed that I got that huge wad of yarn out of that space. I think part of my problem was just volume of yarn. Matter of fact, when you look at it now, I can also kind of adjust this and adjust that to get it more square. But even this bulge on this side doesn't seem as bad. You can almost pull it down, as bad as it was before. I really think the culprit was primarily that baby Bernat yarn in the middle. All right. You know, the silver yarn was supposed to be the yarn that you put in above the sumac stitch to kind of anchor it down, because the sumac is not a real, it's not really a weave. It's a series of knots. And so those knots have to be kind of secured by a line of weaving on top of them. And I foolishly used the silver, which is just as slippery as a snake. It's just awful. So I'm kind of tempted to put something else more secure in there. We'll see if I need to do that. I did lose one seashell that I'll need to reinsert somewhere, but so far so good. Now we shall proceed. I have just done one row of this new sumac stitch using every other warp string, and already I'm so pleased with how nice and flat it's lying on there. It looks so tidy and orderly. This edge warp string was pulling in some. I've tried to yank it out a bit. I think it'll be okay. I do feel like now this is a bit bulky, but not too bad. That's just that bulky yarn. So we will see, but I think this might actually work. Fingers crossed. I'm several rows along and it's still looking really good. Look how smooth that is. I'm just stunned at the difference. I still have a bit of an inward curve here that I'm wondering about. Although this is so nice and smooth up there. And I still kind of don't like this hump over here that has not disappeared. Have to see about that. I'm getting into some, tight weaving in here where I'm in the middle. I don't have all that head space you normally have when you're weaving above you. And I'm trying to do it in the middle of the weave. And sometimes it's hard for me on the sumac stitch to get both a finger and a thumb underneath here to try to reach and pull that next pair, both of those back through. And so that's when it's really fun to have, as I said before, a crochet hook works so well, because I can just go in between these two, reach under, grab the next and pull it back through. And then do it with the other one, and I finish my stitch. So that, a crochet hook, as I've said before, I'm sorry about my fingers getting in the way because I'm holding with that left hand. A crochet hook is so helpful. I think I've done the best possible job I can with that, and it looks so much better. Matter of fact, I think it looks more watery, more silvery than it did before, certainly. I want to mention a few real benefits, shocking benefits, to this backstrap weaving method. First of all, if you want to know what your weave is going to look like when it's not under tension, all you have to do is lean forward and release it, and you can see what it's going to look like. If you have it on a rigid heddle loom, there's well, I guess you could release the gears on the side. It doesn't really give you, yeah, I guess that would work. I don't know. This is just a lot easier. You can adjust the tension just by moving your body. And that leads to another benefit, which is a lot of weaving tends to encourage you to lean forward and hunker down over your weave, which gives you a really sore back. And a lot of weavers talk about this. But this method, in order to keep your tension working, it forces you to lean back and to kind of step away from your weave to keep the tension up. And that is easier on your back to keep it straight. I found that I was too far away from this weave and was having a hard time keeping myself from leaning forward. And so I took it in this much on this side and tied a nice tight knot and looped it back over the knitting needle. It's just so adjustable, I guess, is what I would say. I'd have to read up more on the backstrap technique to see if I want to use it further, because you would have to go ahead and attach it to what you wanted to use permanently here. I don't know. I don't really know how that would work, but maybe it will. We'll see. It's kind of fun. I kind of like it. It's a very organic way of weaving, I think, because you're using your own body, which is kind of fun. All right, I'm going to give myself a break, go outside for a bit, come back and look at this and see if I want to redo that or not. I'm just having a hard time deciding. I'm going to look at it some. But this looks so much better. I feel like that might look better as well. But it's very time consuming to pick out that much weaving. This flower bed is such a mess, but there's some really good stuff in here. That's my lantana, last year's kind of skeleton of the lantana. I need to cut that off so that the new ones can come. That's not quite happened yet. But look what I found today. I found one of my nice big hostas underneath all of this rot. Dead leaves and mostly lots and lots of vines that I need to pull out. They come back every year. But I'm so excited about my hosta. I think I have 3 big hostas in here. That's the only big one I found. I also have a little variegated hosta that's already up, and some other really big ones down there that you can see. But oh my goodness, this is so viney and weedy. Let's go look at something better. Look how pretty my thyme is right now. This is, I think, the new growth that's blooming. I don't know why this side is blooming and that side is not. But the thyme is doing well. My oregano has transplanted into this bed really beautifully. I took it out of the old herb bed. This is that sticky stuff that sticks to your fingers. And it's really, really looking great. I have tons of cilantro. It'll die off and I'm going to put basil down there. Well, enough of the herbs. My Ladybanks rose is just not as stunning as it has been in other years. Every time it starts to bloom, either a storm comes along or a little freeze comes along. It is beautiful though. I just think that the blooms on it are so delicate. My azalea is just about past, and then it gets to have another year to grow. See, here's more weeds in this bed. Oh, there's a little hosta. But this is my new plant that I put in this tire bed. I had put a forsythia start in there that did not survive, and so I went to the local nursery and found this spirea. I've never owned a spirea before, and it was so tall, and it was not expensive at all. And as I brought it home, all the little white flowers fell off. It looked like snow, but I think it's going to be really happy here next to this trellis, and it's already such a good size. I don't know how tall they get, but I don't really care. However tall it gets, I'll be happy. Such a pretty day. And tonight we're going to have thunderstorms and rain all day tomorrow. I think we finally found a good use for this old rowboat that Adam and Julia made for her math class one year. You can see that the wood is splitting and the paint is peeling off. So I've told Adam that he can drill holes in the bottom so it'll drain. And we're going to fill it with dirt from that pile over there that we're trying to get rid of and turn it into a bit of a flower bed. I've even got some bulbs, you can see them here in this bed, that really need a home. And this right here is the spot where that big hole is underneath that we don't know what it is. It's a finished off cement block rectangular hole in the ground that we have no idea what it was for. We like to think of it as a bootlegger's hole, but I have no idea. Anyway, we filled it with metal and filled it in, put the metal sheet over top of it, but now this will sit on top of it. We can't mow over it because you're likely to put your mower in it, in the hole. So we're going to put this boat over top of it since we can't mow over it and turn it into a flower bed. So I'll keep you posted on that hopeful project. I'm back with this tapestry weave, and now that I've looked at it for a couple of days, I can really tell that even though, yeah, you got this slope here that kind of, no, I don't like this. This side is coming in. This side would probably do the same if I got rid of this bulk, so I'm going to do the same thing. I think this is a plain weave, though, and it should be easier to take out than a sumac stitch, which puts a little bit of strain on your warp strings when you're removing it. So I'm going to take this out today, restitch that, and see if I can at least get a symmetry on the two sides. I wish that they were straight. If I were better at this, I could probably tell you why. Probably because it's bulkier on the bottom and making the bottoms come out, or maybe I've extended my warp strings at the top and the bottom too far, but they go in. I just really don't know. But it is improving. So I'm going to fix that hump on the side and get back to you. I've taken out so much yarn out of here. Look at all that. Plus I had to throw some away because it had knot in it a couple times. And I mean, if I move this around, it would still fill in that spot. I am just amazed at how much yarn I crammed into there. And I think part of this is personality driven. That is how I am, is if I can just do a little bit more, I'll put a little bit more in there. It happens to me all the time when I'm pouring coffee in a cup or milk in a glass. I'm like, oh, I can just get a little more in there. So I tend to be an overdoer, and it's the ruination of me sometimes. That's not the problem on this weave. It's not bulk this way, up and down, that gave this hump. It's bulk this way, and so that's shoving it out that way. So, but this is an issue as well, and I need to be careful when I'm restitching this, reweaving this, not to beat so hard and not to shove in too much of this really cool yarn. So I'm maybe halfway through, and again, this silver band is it was on top of the other that I was unweaving, and now it's on the bottom underneath this. And I'm just gonna, it's so slippery and tricky, and I'm gonna have to be careful with it. All right, well, I'm going to keep on going. I'll bring you back in, I think, when I'm done, unless I have something else brilliant to add, which is unlikely. Here's the little tapestry. Now, as I consider putting this little bumpy yarn, which I love, it's loopy yarn, back into this weave, into this kind of triangular shaped area. It was a simple weave before. It was double stranded simple weave, which just means that it goes under one string and in front of the other, and behind one string and in front of the other, back and forth, a regular weave, not a sumac stitch. But the thing is, if I try to do every other, I don't know what that would look like. I don't think that would work with a simple weave. Would I go under 2 and over 2 and under 2 and over 2? That would look terrible because I would have 2 strands showing. And I'm wondering if I should change to a sumac stitch with that yarn so that I can do every other strand, every other warp strand. We have to see. So I'm going to experiment with that, put in a whole lot less of it so that I cut down on my bulk and see if I can make this work. The other thing I want is, since it's supposed to be kind of a wave, I want the long strand to go on the top, and then I want the strands to get shorter as they go down to the bottom. I don't want to have the long strand here. That would make the wave look funny, wouldn't it? Because you want the top of the wave to be long this way. So I'm going to have to start up here and then shorten as I go down, I think, would work better, rather than trying to start with little bitties and work up to a long one. Yeah. Tricky, tricky. All right. I may just bring you back in when I'm done. We'll see if anything exciting happens in the middle. I'm fairly pleased with how that's looking so far. I've done one pass down. I love the seashells kind of hide little joints at the point. You know, there's not really an empty space there, but it kept me from having to feel like I had to go further. I really like these little poofy tufts of sea foam that are coming through now. So this is going well. I am doing a sumac stitch now with this, every other strand, and I think just like down here, it's going to lay flatter and look better. Got my crochet hook in my mouth. This thing is so useful when you get into these tight corners where your fat fingers can't fit. It's looking really good. I remembered in the ta-da nick of time to put in the seashell that I had in before. I have this last little corner to do. I might run out, and you see there are 2 different lengths, so I may have to get a little dab more of yarn, but I think this is, you see how it's more balanced now? Granted, it does curve in. I don't know what's going to happen with it when I take it out of tension totally and take this knitting needle off the bottom, but we'll have to see how it goes. But so far, I'm glad I don't have that hump out there anymore. That's for sure. Okay, I think I'm done. Let me pop this camera off of here and show you what it's looking like. Okay, I apologize for that noise in the background. That's my heater running because tonight is supposed to be 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It is only April. I shouldn't be whining. It's not like it's summer yet, really. Okay, so I'm much more pleased with this. I got rid of that hump over there. I'm learning as I go, folks, learning as I go. I think my next tapestry weave, I'm going to get better warp strings. These are still, I'm still using that kind of decorative thread around the outside of an old throw. And I'm going to use something better. And I'm going to go back to Spruce and Linen's YouTube channel and find a weave that I really like and follow her directions and pattern more than I did this time. This time I went out on my own, and you see what happens when you're very not an expert and you go off on your own. Okay, so I'm going to tuck the ends in, and I'll post a little picture of the finished one, and we'll hope that it's better. I think it is better. Thanks for following along. See you next time.